and there, and these in the other direction. And we will just make a revolution and punish those who work. And we have already had 200 years of complete chaos. And here people need to figure it out, because there are only two types of people who work. Say, an entrepreneur, and he has employees. I would say these are not workers, they are assistants in doing business, because they agreed to do business with him under conditions. And he manages this business. What Mars did was to cut it off, to make the entrepreneur an enemy, and to call the workers enemies again. And then to kill approximately 100 million or more people on Earth because of this. This is one side. And the other side is to take, divide, issue laws under which you won't be able to breathe later. And in the end, war for you. Go die. If we explain it to people in a way like this, I think black and white, well, it seems clear where to move. And you have already been in this pseudo-royalty where the state ripped you off and then killed you. Let's try to make this, the word state is a bit incorrect from a certain point of view. It gives it a certain status. Why not call it, perhaps, for example, as an illustration, the Committee of Ukrainians? Here he leads, he has been entrusted, for instance, and this will be the state. Some minimal ones, those who act as statisticians, just gathering information. Tomorrow, in fact, artificial intelligence will be sitting there. And why did Elon Musk really take such a strong interest in artificial intelligence? Because these beasts, cannibals, could indeed create such artificial intelligence that humanity would never escape from it. No way.
That is digital slavery. You know, I also thought about this topic. Just imagine that everything was heading towards this. In the educational sphere, as we see, some horrors are happening in the sense that a imposed, coordinated, completely ineffective program is being enforced, which does not explain to people how to live, let alone how to live prosperously, how to live successfully, how to realize oneself, how to develop. So this is a generally complex direction that has been completely mastered by various ministries of education across the country. By the way, Trump plans to start by finally abolishing the American Department of Education, which has caused so much grief during its existence. Simply put, the American educational system has fallen from first place to somewhere around 12th since the Carter era, some say, even to 24th. But why am I saying this? To point out that against the backdrop of this total deception of people from the very beginning. On the other hand, how these demons or Democrats have indeed been operating until now. On the other hand, they certainly wanted to master the technologies themselves, which is why they constantly fought with Musk, using absolutely unacceptable methods. In other words, they tried to finance all his competitors and so on, creating an uncomfortable legal environment for him so that he wouldn't have those technologies, but rather they would. And against this background, I already saw a terrible prospect. I thought that soon it would come to the point where just a little more human labor would become so unskilled due to low education that it would simply yield to machines on all parameters. And there will simply be no more place for people. And capitalism is shown as capitalism, but in reality it is the military communism. They wanted to establish only digital. And what you are saying, Musk, on the contrary, wants to return the fire to people like Prometheus. He wants to say, listen, you are so talented, you can do so much, you can achieve much more than all these machines. And even if they help you in some situations in any way possible, they are your assistants, not your masters. Therefore, in my opinion, I perceive it in this manner. And I believe that when artificial intelligence is infused with humanity and is managed by truly progressive people for the good, then it becomes an astonishing assistant that can, like SpaceX, ultimately overcome these stages and provide humanity with tremendous advancement.
Yes, Maria, you are indeed right about Mitya. And now humanity has a choice. In each country, to follow Prometheus separately, or in each country to go into some kind of slavery. Therefore, I indeed believe it is very easy to explain which direction to turn, but it can be said that 5 to 10 years ago, there was no such person who could truly shine and show people that we can do it this way. Because people were generally, in fact, actually in some kind of cage, in a box, and you understand that you cannot get out of there. We, as people of common sense, tried to shake off the box, looked around 360 degrees, maybe over there. Again, you feel the box is still there, so you shake it off again to move further. And then, as you beautifully said, Prometheus appears and you say, well, this is what humanity basically needs. And it turns out that Elon remarkably preserved freedom of speech and successfully invented many new, incredibly innovative technologies, including groundbreaking advancements such as 6 technologies. This, again, encourages children to always be invited to the X platform because that is the future. The future for accountants, lawyers, and judges is already gone. It's all lost. You can only delve into something on the X platform. Find your direction and basically shape your life, meaning you can go somewhere. Well, look, Maria, I have met many people, both conservatives and Republicans here, and I met Vivek Ramaswamy and was able to talk to him briefly. I told him my position on Ukraine. I disagree with it. And he said, look, I defend America's interests, and our main enemy is China. It happened this way. In a manner that was orchestrated by the international power players, unfortunately, Ukraine got caught in the crossfire. There is war there. But he says you definitely have a method out. Find a leader like Javier Milei. Put him in place, and he will make your country free. Everything is, in fact, in your hands. So he kind of, how straightforward is it actually to talk to a libertarian? He always talks about freedom. I mean, there is society, it should be free. It should be freedom of speech. And as he says, only the truth. And your society, he tells Americans, we are capable of accepting the truth, whatever it may be. This concerns our government. Give people all the information they are capable. There is no need to hide anything, because behind this hiding starts. This is where all kinds of corruption begin, right? Then the institution of family, support for the institution of family, the right to carry arms, freedom of entrepreneurship, and at the same time implement some minimal tax, specifically on purchases, so that it goes directly to the government. And you don't need an accountant, nor do you have to report anything at the end. No declarations are needed. And it turns out you don't need the IRS either. I wouldn't be surprised if Vivek does the same thing here now. And he, as a libertarian, will try to do it now. They will eliminate all unnecessary expenses. And it turns out that there will be 90% more expenses than could actually be spent. Now, here is the latest information. They gave out $500 million. So, to some additional business enterprises with overdue payments. Well, there is a specific date when it is possible. Yes. And they also issued $200 billion from this, which was overdue from 10 years ago. Can you imagine what kind of corruption this is? That is, if there is corruption anywhere, it is here. And that is why the whole world has turned into corruption. And I feel sorry that Zelensky not end up on the right side of history. Because he could have supported Trump and recognized his strength, his understanding of politics, his awareness of what kind of person Trump is, his strategic insight into political dynamics, and his deep comprehension of leadership qualities. Unfortunately, he gave in somewhat a bit to other forces, to external pressures, and that really hurts. And now this is worse for Ukraine, because imagine, support back then would have created a completely different situation here. Socialists and communists frequently first create a problem, and then they give the impression that they are doing something about it. They indeed made a deal with the Kiev people for war, and now it seems like they are actually helping or not helping. That is, nothing can be understood, this drip assistance, no matter how we fought with you, so that Landvist, it was so natural. The president signed, and we thought if we announced this, we would say, certainly, let's do it, indeed, to end the war.
It seems to me that we are undoubtedly living in an extraordinarily fascinating period. 2 more months, yes, when I think Ukraine also needs to take some steps to ensure everything turns out in the best way for it, so that Trump would want to fully support all of the requirements needed by Ukraine, which are fair demands. I think that here I probably need to perhaps ask you a question or seek your advice. What do you think, in your opinion, needs to be done specifically in these 2 months in order to achieve the best positions?
Firstly, since both President Trump, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and others utilize the X platform, we need to keep consistently reaching out there and persistently reminding about Ukraine, about us, and say that there are reasonable and sensible people, and we want, as Ukrainians, that we need assistance and support right now. But this should be mutual, meaning we need to constantly draw attention to ourselves. Therefore, I invite everyone once again to the X platform and to be active there. I think this is one of the points. Then, establishing contacts with these islands of light that already exist, like with Argentina, that is, with Javier Milei, who has a very significant influence. Then, building very good relations with Israel. Because now Israel definitely will not lose and everything will be fine. I think these Arab thugs will finally be put in their place and there won't be more of this. And all the instigators here in America, I definitely think there will be a favorable deportation of all of them here. Palestine from the river and somewhere else. I do not rule out that Trump will negotiate with Xi Jinping to send them there immediately to the communist paradise where they wanted to live. Therefore, and believe me, as soon as the deportation begins, it will turn out that everything is fine. No one will be walking with flags. Everything will be as it should be. Everything is fine. So, to your question, that is, the contacts are supported by the USA, Argentina, Israel, El Salvador, Italy, and Meloni is a very good leader right now. You see, she is not allowed to act. That is, she wanted to stop them so that refugees would not enter the country excessively, and the Supreme Court denied her. Thank God Trump now has all branches of power. This is the executive, legislative, and judicial. 3, 2, 6 conservatives and Democrats.
By the way, I wanted to tell you, I just recently read about Chuck Schumer's new attempts. We were on American roller coasters with Harry, or rather I repeated after him, calling him Chucky Schumer. He is trying to somehow push his judges in there. I don't know whose places and instead of whom, but there will be a battle unfolding there now. So our viewers should definitely also stay informed and watch this closely. It's important.
Did you see at that evening where the presidents meet, Trump said to Schumer, "You are very sad. And because of this sadness, you will never get out." Chuck Schumer is here and he looks very gloomy. Doesn't he look gloomy? He looks gloomy. Look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how your party has awakened. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to potentially become the first woman president in the future. Indeed. I think if Schumer definitely manages to do something, he should really at least wash his jacket once. It's just some kind of monster. But these Democrats are so unkempt. On one side, We have beautiful people, like the Republicans and so on, also stately, family-oriented, and so on. And on the other side, the most important thing is that they will try to prove to you that this is not beauty. It should be this way. So that's the problem. I would say perhaps just a bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, perhaps just a bit more.
Well, I will tell you, Trump's team is just perfectly selected. There are such charming, intelligent, wonderful beauties, and most importantly, they are absolutely brave. Girls and women, and at the same time, just some, I don't know, movie stars that is indescribable beauty, some primuses of various show stars, television, and so on. So yes, this is certainly a team that came in compared to those that were there, and it was considered that there were some officials, what difference does it make and all that, but they came in like some ancient gods and goddesses. So yes, it makes an impression.
Of course, but it again creates a sense of trust, because any relationships and everything is based on trust. That is, if you trust, then you can build it. If you don't trust, then nothing works. For the external side is also important. That is, a person must be both internally strong, have a core, and be beautiful, and strive from the outside. Let's say any person may have certain characteristics and qualities or attributes, but transforming this will be felt from within. The person's inner self will still show normally. But painting purple hair and immediately deciding to cut it. When Trump won, that's some kind of horror, to be honest. This observation highlights the recurring pattern that, regardless of the political spectrum, even if, for instance, the left emerges victorious, the outcome often still involves certain elements such as prisons and wars. If conservatives or sensible people win, they will shake hands with their opponents and say, I will do better, do as I do. It's the approach. And Hyver Millet always says, they always impose on you that let's have a discussion, let's debate, but he has a response. And you should determine with whom you are debating if this person has created nothing in life, has been a political instructor, a political scientist, or a party worker all their life. I don't need them to ask questions. I am not interested in their opinion at all. I will ask for the opinion of a person who has a background, someone who has created something in life. I think I will get some kind of answer there. Therefore, Hyver Millet says once again, do you think you are debating with them? But they really want to kill you, and you are actually going to talk to them. Indeed. You just simply need to disregard them and find the more positive aspects, brighter sides, and move towards them. Not waste time. That's the point.
Well, overall, I understand that now we need to take some small steps towards the light, and then starting from January 20th, and especially January 21, we will be waiting for some interesting decisions. I am sure they will come, and they are already ready.
Of course, and in general, humanity in the future, as Elon Musk said, will not represent its democracy, considering the technologies that currently exist. Imagine that you are currently electing someone. There is a strong process happening, and everyone is participating in it. You have chosen a person who represents your interests somewhere, in some building. You can press a button and answer any question. You don't need a person there who will indeed issue laws in their favor, not ours. That is why what Elon is doing now is very important. He will abolish a lot of laws. His proposal, for example, is that to pass a new law, such as 60% of the votes are needed, and the law must have a term. But if you want to repeal, for example, a law that people are unhappy with, then 40% of the votes are enough. And such an approach will allow for easily adopting new laws. And those that are unnecessary and critical can be repealed, because humanity has been constantly adding laws for the last 150 years. And now Vivek Ramaswamy has pointed out that these ARS tomes are impossible to read. There are millions some millions of pages. And if a law, as Elon Musk, the renowned entrepreneur and visionary, says, cannot be read without a legal expert or attorney, then it is no longer a law. And it should be understood as the founding fathers gathered and issued 10 points. You don't need someone to explain anything further. The same should apply to any law or regulation, and it should have a clearly defined term of action, a term for when it ends, and this should be explicitly stated in any given situation. And the beauty is that such lions, as I indeed call them, have truly come to power, these remarkable entrepreneur lions, that they will start acting in all directions at once. This includes the judiciary, jurisprudence, and science, where 90% of federal money goes to some universities, and then they impose communist ideologies on them. You send your child to university, and they return as some kind of enemy of the family. That is, the family doesn't matter. Nothing matters. That is, they simply take away values from you, from a person. Therefore, it is absolutely essential for children to have this immunity so they cannot succumb to all these communist tricks.
Do you truly and deeply understand how this was actually conceived? School, masters, gurus, teachers and guides, some beacons of knowledge, wisdom and mentors. You cannot stamp them out at your command or according to your wishes in whatever quantities you need so that they just, that is, today it is much wiser to give the opportunity to those people who have truly invented something in their lives, not just written. Who needs these thousands, hundreds of thousands of PhDs? Did they produce any innovation perhaps? What are these degrees? What are these titles that suddenly...
They, Maria, hang medals on each other, meaning the medal changes.
You stop, then it starts to be among themselves with what is all this for? Did it somehow affect the level of education? No, it has affected the level of demagoguery because, as you can see, as a result of this invasion of television and socialists, as a result of this in general, apart from such breakthrough technologies that have actually now accumulated around Elon Musk, everything else is stagnating. There are no other flashes of, insights.
Now nature appears to be barren and lifeless, and it indeed takes truly great efforts in many ways to make a modest discovery. And perhaps this is true, or maybe it's just a kind of excuse for the baby boomers, who haven't accomplished as much as the generations before them. But it is very striking. One way to quantitatively assess this is to say that the pace of progress in broad areas is the same as it was 100 years ago. Not that it is slow, but even if we say that it is the same, if you think about PhDs, there are probably 100 times more today than there were, say, in 1924. And so this is the same pace of progress. And the average PhD is 99% less productive than people 100 years ago. And it doesn't seem like, a healthy scientific ecosystem. So there is a feeling that perhaps the process has slowed down.
So, looking at the dead end they have led us to, today's systems, platforms, our communication, any of this fast communication, as you said, in real time, allows true conduits of unique knowledge and comprehensive innovations to give direct master classes, lessons, lectures and insights in various fields and so on. And it's much better to seat people in a class who will simply listen to these necessary specialists in each field rather than having a retransmitter, which was a funny anecdote where Caruso says to you, "Do you like how he sings?" He says, "No, it's terrible." He says, "What? Have you heard him somewhere?" "Please, Vasya sang it to me yesterday."
Yes, that's how it turns out.
When Vasya comes and hums, of course, it's just funny now. At the level of the technologies that exist, still waiting for someone to, be able to understand some huge array of knowledge, experience it, and act as an adapter to spread it to the masses. But in reality, the opposite process is happening. They simply standardize everything, refine, and hollow out the template to the point of uselessness, And then, as you said, they pass these little templates to each other with medals, and this is what their education system consists of.
And then every merit, like how many times you were noted for some candidate degree, means I have some memories, how to say it in Russian. You were remembered. Yes, mentions. Yes, I was mentioned 100 times, quoted this many times. Yes, 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 and I have 200. That's a great achievement. Everything we are saying now, Maria, is all a consequence because the reason starts here. They essentially take money from productive people, essentially move it to where there are essentially no results, and essentially distribute it there. And that's essentially why they live. What will Ivek and Ilon do now at this precise moment? They will completely sever these arteries, and we will also see how much rot and debris will come floating out of there, because it has been accumulating there for many, many years.
Oh, you know, with how much fascism I have encountered in this system, when they say, for example, I don't want to vaccinate my child. Yes, this was a long time ago. And I say, listen, he is healthy. He doesn't need it. And they tell me, you must care about the other, less healthy children in our class and their overall well-being. As a doctor, you literally understand the absurdity. But nevertheless, they impose it that way. Why am I telling you this? Because they explain all their social and, moreover, utopian non-working mechanisms by saying that you should be highly moral, that you are so inventive, talented, creative, so share with those who cannot, like you. Do you understand what I mean?
This is disease. By the way, Vivek Ramaswamy, he has a pharmaceutical business. He knows perfectly well how all of this works. And I really hope that Kennedy Jr. and Vivek, who is responsible for healthcare, and this one in the daughter team, that is, where expenses need to be cut. Kennedy Jr. and Vivek are both key figures in the team, with Kennedy Jr. focusing on leadership and Vivek being responsible for healthcare initiatives. The daughter team is tasked with identifying areas where expenses need to be cut, ensuring efficiency and cost effectiveness. Together, I think they have done a lot of useful things. And it should also be said that only in America is pharmaceutical advertising allowed on all these channels. I think New Zealand is the only other one. There are no other countries like this. Just imagine what kind of corruption this is. And there are such networks as NBC and so on.
I don't know about television, but when you are on Ukrainian YouTube, I constantly hear about how this, and this needs to be treated. Here it hurts, there it itches, something else. Everyone constantly needs some kind of medication.
Yes, it's true. But again, all these mass media are fed by pharmaceutical companies. They are cutting this off too, and it is already falling into the abyss. Will it even stop? And what broadcasting channels will remain? Joe Rogan, Patrick David, and others. So it turns out that those people who gained their audience in a natural manner, just like your content, it was born step by step. How much work was put into it? This will work. What about the rest? Nonsense and propaganda. Propaganda, if you take away their money, there is no more propaganda. The word propaganda comes from stolen money. They stole your money, and then they need to shove something in your ears through this window, and then start a war.